I'd like to give him a moment, but let me just text him. Okay. What do you think, Steve?
No, I've got exactly 6:01 by my computer, so.
Me too. I'm going to call it to, I'm sure Bob will get on soon. Must be having difficulty. Okay, I'm going to, hold on. Nope, didn't hear anything. Thought that was a message from him. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the City Council regular meeting of Tuesday, December 21st, 2021 at 6:02 p.m. This meeting will be conducted by a remote video and teleconference pursuant to 1 MRSA, Section 403B, 2D, and Section 6 of the Stanford City Council Rules of Procedure, as amended and adopted August 3rd, 2021, reflecting recent recommendations of the U.S. CDC and adoption by the State of Maine CDC pertaining to the conduct of meetings indoors in the public space. Members of the public may join the meeting by phone by dialing 1-929-205-6099 using meeting ID 865-4005-2539 and password 024903 or via computer at the link provided on the city's website. We're going to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilor Lanigan will be leading the pledge and the moment of silence. I'll ask everybody else to please mute your computers and allow him to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could just have a moment of silence for all our fellow Americans in Kentucky and down south, that'd be great. Thanks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Lanigan. We'll call the roll. Councilor Martell.
Present.
Councilor Hanselman.
Present.
Councilor Tuttle is absent with notice. Councilor Stackpole.
Present.
Yay. Councilor Lanigan.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Present.
And I am Anne Mastracchio, the Mayor of City of Stanford, and we're joined this evening by City Manager Stephen Buck and Melissa Ricketts, the City Manager's Executive Assistant. First item on the agenda are the minutes, 21-569-01, ordered to approve the minutes from the regular City Council meeting held on Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. And I will just remind Councilor Lanigan that he was not present at that meeting. Councilor Martell? Oh, I'm sorry. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself this evening.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
A motion by Councilor Hanselman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Martell, or was that Councilor Stackpole?
No, Martell.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Councilor Martell?
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman?
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole?
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan?
Abstain.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Herlihy?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That is 5 in favor and 1 abstention. Next item on the agenda is the Mayor's Report, City Council Subcommittee Reports. I'll begin with the Municipal Operations and Property Subcommittee. The primary item under discussion for the committee was the status of the Haybrook Bridge on Bernier Road, which shares a border with the town of Alfred. This bridge has been under discussion for 10 years due to its deteriorating condition. The Maine Department of Transportation has reduced the weight limit on the bridge to 10 tons following a recent inspection. Public Works Director Matt Hill explained that this means that the city's plow trucks and the trash contractor will not be able to service the last two residences before the bridge, as those vehicles weigh more than 10 tons, and there is no safe place for them to turn around before the bridge. State law dictates that the cost of repair or replacement is to be shared by the municipal entities that share the bridge. Alfred has refused to do so up to this point. The consensus was that the city manager would once again contact the Town of Alfred Select Board and try to engage them in this process. Regardless of their response, the city would seek a revised estimate for the cost of the project and prepare to replace the span. If the bridge is not replaced and left as is, it will eventually be closed. We should be prepared to pursue legal action against the Town of Alfred if they do not pay their 50% of the cost. In the interim, the city will try to obtain an easement allowing a turnaround to be constructed in the spring. This will allow normal plowing and trash pickup to resume until the bridge is replaced. Waste Zero reported to the subcommittee regarding a shortage of 8-gallon orange bags. There are many reasons why Waste Zero is unable to manufacture that size bag at this time, from labor to supply shortages. Bottom line, the situation should be remedied by the middle of March, which is when they anticipate resuming production. They apologize for a situation that is really out of their control. Data shows that only 3.4% of the total orange bags used in Stanford are of the 8-gallon size. And for those who noticed that the Christmas tree had a brief period where it was not lit up in the evening, the committee heard from Brian DeRocher that it was due to a bad breaker. The breaker was replaced and the lights are on once again on in the evening. The Public Safety Committee met and received a complaint regarding speeding on Deering Neighborhood Road. That makes it very dangerous for those who choose to walk along the road. Since there was some question as to the actual posted speed limit, Deputy Chief Eric Small will verify the speed limit and ensure it is posted correctly before placing an officer in the area to enforce the limit. The police department reported on a number of items, including but not limited to updates on our unhoused population, 27 individuals housed since August, and 15 people still living outside, and the homeless count due to be conducted in January, the numbers of which will reflect the HUD money that comes to the state. Chief Anderson mentioned the importance of using safe, legally obtained marijuana to avoid black market fentanyl-laced product, which has been circulating in other areas. Detective Matt Gagne reported on detective unit initiatives and changes to the evidence response team. It is anticipated that 2 new hires will bring the department to a full complement of 40 officers, at least until 3 retirements take effect, 2 by the end of the year and the 3rd on February 1st. And the Stanford Police Association held a community policing fundraising basketball game with the court jesters, which raised $12,000 to be utilized for donations, local scholarships, youth sports teams, and community events. The Mayor's Coalition met and reviewed the work plan for 2022. For those who don't know, the Mayor's Coalition is a nonpartisan group formed in 2012 and currently includes the mayors of 9 Maine communities: Augusta, Biddeford, Lewiston, Portland, Rockland, Saco, Stanford, South Portland, and Westbrook, with a combined population of 250,000. The coalition advocates for state and federal policies that recognize the important role that Maine cities play in providing vital services to Maine people and the positive impact Maine cities have on the economic strength of our state. The priorities for the next legislative session will be municipal service funding, municipal infrastructure, homelessness and housing, broadband expansion, a climate action plan, and the identification and review of legislation of potential interest to members of the coalition. Finally, the date has been extended to get applications in if you wish to serve on any boards or committees of the city. Look on the city's webpage for the list of committees and openings and an application. Any applications that are in the city manager's office by Monday, December 27th will be considered. And that's all I have this evening. I don't think there are any other subcommittees that met or have reports. I don't see any hands up from counselors, so I will go on to to the city manager's report. Floor is yours, Steve.
All right, thank you. I've pulled my report up on the screen. The first item I'd like to speak about is there's a new property tax deferral program that's sponsored by the state of Maine. In the last legislative session, they passed Title 36, Chapter 908, which is the deferred collection of homestead property taxes. I've included a link here. This is a state-funded program. They're using $3.2 million of their ARPA funds to allow qualifying seniors in a homestead-exempt property to defer their annual property taxes, with the state assuming the lien and reimbursing the city annually for the deferred taxes. Qualification for the program are: taxpayer may apply to the deferred property taxes program homestead by filing a claim for deferral with the municipal assessor after January 1st of this year, but prior to April 1st of this year, April 1st being the assessment date. And they must file each year for the year in which the deferral is requested and or being claimed. In order to qualify, the taxpayer must file a claim, must be 65 years of age or older, or is unable to be employed by reason of disability on April 1st of the year in which the claim is filed. The taxpayer has income as defined, and they have the specific legal reference here, of less than $40,000 for the calendar year immediately preceding the calendar year in which the claim is filed. Taxpayer, if an individual has liquid assets, and that's defined in the law, of less than $50,000, or in the case of two or more individuals filing the claim jointly, less than $75,000. And the last qualification is that the taxpayer's homestead receives a homestead exemption under Chapter 105, Subchapter 4B. So in other words, these are primary residents, people that qualify for homestead exempt property, 65 years or older, $40,000 a year or less of income, and single person assets of $50,000 or less, or couple $75,000 or less. So once filing and determined qualified by our assessing office, the assessor's office sends that file to the state of Maine. The state of Maine then verifies that, and the state of Maine would reimburse the municipality for each one of those individual property tax bills. It would then be deferred. That deferment would go until the time of the death of the claimant, the sale of the property. The claimant moves. They move their homestead exempt property to a different address, and obviously in a different location. Or in the case of a mobile home, they remove the home and it is moved out of state. Okay? So there is interest that accrues on this. The law is specific into that. It's not dissimilar from the rate of interest that the municipality sets each year for its deferred collection of taxes. So all of that is in the state law. But this is the first point of making the City Council aware. I've asked our communications coordinator. She will start pushing this information forward immediately thereafter, so we can get people to start signing up as early as January 1st of this year. This is should be a very valuable program. It's really targeted at those senior citizens who their Social Security income is not keeping pace with the cost of living, and it gives them another opportunity as to be able to stay in their home without worrying about that liability until after they're gone or they sell their home. The next large element is the Osha mask and test mandate. November 4th, Osha released the Emergency Temporary Standard, the ETS. I've got the call out of the law here, mandating that employers of 100 plus, which is the city of Stanford, to either mandate vaccines for all employees or to provide a vaccination and testing program. The original compliance for the employer, i.e. the city, was to file a compliant policy by December 4th of 2021, having masking and testing compliance starting January 4th of 2022. City Council reviewed the compliant policy satisfying the ETS by Osha at the November 9th meeting, which time it was tabled because the day prior to that, on November 8th, we learned that the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, had placed a stay on the ETS. So that was tabled at that point in time. December 17th, we just received notification that a 3-judge panel of the Sixth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals dissolved the stay on the OSHA ETS and thereby restarted the time frame for compliance. Timing is poor on this. The new time frame is to have the compliance policy in effect as of January 10th of 2022, and pursuant to that policy, masking and testing compliance no later than February 9th. So administration will resubmit the policy for the January 4th, 2022 council meeting, seeking adoption and thereby to be compliant with the federal mandate under the OSHA ETS. Quick reference to legal notes that were put in the communications. They see that the dissolution of the prior stay over the holiday season puts undue burden upon the employers, but there's nothing we can do about that at this point in time. The recent 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals actions has been appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and that action is pending. The U.S. Supreme Court has asked the Biden administration and has given them until December 30th, 2021 to respond to the request for a stay prior to the U.S. Supreme Court. The outcome of that is not yet known, and it is very uncertain as to another stay or the lack thereof. Therefore, the employers must be moved very proactively. So that being said, the 9-page policy has been drafted. You've seen that once before. I will be reviewing that in the remainder of this week and next. There are a couple of elements I believe need to be amended pursuant to other clarifications that have been provided since the last time this came forward. That being said, please look for that information in the January 4th council packet. And I will note that the city has approximately 300 tests on hand in our inventory right now, not counting other tests that public safety departments have pulled in through the EMS. And the Biden administration was announcing today that they've ordered an additional $500 million to try and keep up with the anticipated demand that this program and other testing is going to have. Quick note on our communications coordinator. Our new coordinator continues to work on the implementation of the communications plan. There are many foundational elements being addressed in the initial phases of the rollout of the full plan, such as she's working on her 5th vendor and or quote for redesign of the city's website that needs significant updating. She's taking control of all of the social media platforms, but is working with those departments that have independent social media outlets for a coordination of their work product and co-marketing as far as utilization of all social media outlets. We're seeking to have a city council workshop with the communications office early February. We had looked to do that in January, but find that the council's calendar is completely filled in January. Could not find the appropriate time to do so. So again, in the meantime, we're reviewing quotes for the website redevelopment and anything that we may need to include in there in this year's budget, although we believe we have funds currently available in prior reserves, so we would not have to address anything else in that. We've talked, again, cross-marketing opportunities with interdepartmental coordination, and the communications of materials are ongoing. Educational materials are being developed, and it's pretty fascinating to me that she has a multi-month calendar now built out for the number of times of communications that are going out on each of these channels and what's going to be presented and when it's going to be presented. So everybody's sort of grappling now as to getting time in on that calendar. So it's been a very informative process so far. City budget process, the department managers will submit their budget requests, their capital programs and revenue projections by this Thursday, December 23rd, after which time myself and our finance director will perform a zero-based budget review department by department to include the expense, revenue, capital program, and debt service. The revised municipal budget will then go to the first review for the City Council on January 18th, 2022. Very difficult for me to type 2022, but there it is. That will be the council's first opportunity to provide the directives to administration that we will make the appropriate amendments prior to it going to the budget committee. The budget committee process will start this year on March 3rd through March 31st, meeting a minimum of a meeting each week. Each joint public hearing will be held for March 17th, 2022 this year, and the Budget Committee will present its recommendation on school and municipal budget, revenue capital program, and debt service on April 5th of the ensuing year. City Council may accept the budget with or without amendment, but again, it's a tight time frame. We must know by April 8th what it is that the school budget, the recommendation that the Council will adopt to put forward for the referendum vote, because that's the closure date to put that information forward for the June 7th referendum. I thought I was going to wish a Merry Christmas to all here, but at this point in time, at the very end of the workday today, the governor announced that further COVID relief assistance is being sought. The governor sent this announcement out that the hospitals are to host ambulances and emergency medical crews that will match patients with open beds at facilities. So this is, in other words, there's a large need out there that the incumbent ambulance providers, including our own, cannot keep up with the demand of moving patients inter-facility as they all grapple for beds, the appropriate bed space everywhere. So I know as a director on the SMHC board of directors, I get daily pushes of the patient counts and the types and such under that. And I thought at one point in time that I could use those simply to gauge what's going on within York County or within our localized region, but you quickly realize at this point in time that you cannot, because they're importing patients from all over the state, just from a bed capacity standpoint. So we are busier here because of the lack of beds to the north than we would be up. So in the immediate region under the Maine Health Network, you see Maine Medical Center is to receive a team, Southern Maine Healthcare a team, Franklin Memorial Hospital in Farmington a team, and Mid-Coast Hospital in Brunswick is to receive it. Again, so those teams will be actively transporting patients among facilities at any given time and may additionally support emergency departments with the care of COVID-19 patients. Know that emergency departments, walk-in care facilities are absolutely inundated at this point in time. I'm aware of multiple repurposing of patient rooms being reassigned. Medical staff are being moved. It is a very difficult situation for our medical providers. I just want to take a time to wish well and God bless our medical providers for staying in there for the difficult hours, for providing the care. It's a very difficult time for them as much as it is for the patients that are there in our hospitals. I'll end my presentation at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any councilors have any questions of the city manager relating to his report? I don't see any hands up, so I will continue. Thank you. Communications and presentations, there are none. Public participation. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? I don't see any hands up, so I'm assuming that no one is here. So I will close public participation. Public hearings, there are none. Consent agenda 21-558-01. There are 2 items, and if I see no objection, these items are approved. Okay, old business. 21-482-01. Ordered to approve amendments to Chapter 245 of Stanford City Ordinances pertaining to vehicles and traffic, unlawful parking. This item must be read on 2 occasions. This is the second reading. Went back to subcommittee for discussion. Steve, before I ask for a motion, do you want to just update the council what happened?
Sorry, I was muted. We had the current derivation that's in the City Council's packet, was there for the first read that happened 2 meetings ago. It went back to the subcommittee for further consideration because of concerns that were expressed in the first read. The result of the subcommittee's work was no change to the work product, therefore is brought forward again this evening as the second read and is up for council consideration and review. We have, I would expect to hear various points expressed on this as well. The singular point that lingers with me as the manager is the absence of addressing parked trailers that are detached from vehicles, not really fully accounted for in this derivation of the ordinance at this point in time. So with that,
Thank you, Pete.
I would
Yeah,
pass it
thank
back to you, Madam Mayor, to open up for discussion.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask for a motion before the council discusses. So can I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilor Stackpole to approve. Do I have a second?
I'd second that.
A second by Councilor Hanselman. So we have a motion and a second discussion by the council. I'm going to just start with saying that the subcommittee could not reach consensus. The two members of the subcommittee did not want to change this from what it was. I did. I wanted to change it, but I figured at this point I'd rather, I wasn't going to try to push something through that the subcommittee couldn't agree on. So we brought this back the way that it is. I hope it passes. And in the summer, it doesn't, the issue with the trailers is less of a problem in the winter because we don't have parking on city streets because of snow removal. So if it becomes another problem in the summer, I wouldn't hesitate to bring it back. So that's I'm going to be voting for this the way that it is, even though I wish it did a little bit more. So other councilors, comments? Any hands up?
Sorry, that's me, Emery.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
I was doing this.
Okay,
instead
I
of,
see
yeah.
it. Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Well, we'll go with Deputy Mayor Hurley first, and then Councilor Martel has his hand up as well. Go ahead.
So
Yeah.
I wish we had gone further because, and I understand that people want to encourage businesses, but we're essentially, by not restricting a little further into this for trailers, et cetera, we're essentially saying you can use the streets as a free parking lot. Which is okay, in my opinion, for personal vehicles, especially in residential areas. But once you start allowing businesses to use it as a free parking lot, I think there's potential for abuse. There's a potential for, people using their homes as to run a business that's inappropriate out of a residential neighborhood. I don't know what the reasoning was behind not restricting a little bit further for work trailers and boats. I mean, boats. If you can own a boat, you can own a place to park it, in my opinion, or any sort of recreational vehicle. You shouldn't be using the streets as free parking for your recreational stuff or for work equipment. So that's kind of where I am. Is I wish the subcommittee had gone further and restricted that stuff. I've had situations, and I get it. I understand it's like the gross vehicle weight is different, but I've had situations where I've had an 18-wheeler that belonged to a property across the street from mine, and they parked it in front of the property. And another thing, why didn't you restrict it so that they have to park within their lot frontage as opposed to parking in front of someone else's lot frontage? And especially with if you really, really, really wanted to let them keep their personal vehicles and stuff that they have for work, well, restrict it to you have to stay within your lot lines on the street. Because they're starting to impede other people's enjoyment of their property. So there you go.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hurley. Councilor Martel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just feel like this doesn't really address some of the issues that have been brought up. Like this, somebody can still park a trailer on the side of the road as long as it's not attached to a vehicle. This doesn't address that. I think it really needs some more work, even though we've sort of been back and forth a few times. So I think as is, I'm not going to support this tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Martel, before we go on, I just want to ask you, because I didn't get that sense from you at the subcommittee meeting, because you didn't want to add that other, you didn't want to add to this at the meeting, so I'm just wondering what happened.
No, I'm just saying that it's not really addressing the problems we're getting complaints for. So I don't know if we really need to make any changes at this time. I'm not sure that making these additions are really helping much.
Well, I might ask Chief Anderson to comment on some of those changes before we finish, but Councilor Lanigan, go ahead.
Yes, I just would like to also, along Deputy Mayor Hurley's lines, is one thing that you also do is discourage the growth of businesses that handle this type of overflow, this type of parking, creating smaller contractor spaces for people to store these things at. And so by eliminating it from our streets, you know, it also encourages other economic opportunities because people need a place to store them. And when your business is outgrowing your house, you really shouldn't be operating your business out of your house anymore because it changes the dynamic of the property. So I'm more in favor. I don't know if an amendment can be made, and if we're getting the feeling of that we can include the original language to remove the trailers, if I'm reading it correctly.
I'm sorry, Councilor Lanigan, I didn't understand what you're asking. What did you want to amend?
Well, right now you can still park trailers in front of your house, correct, or along the street or whatnot. So is there a way that we can make an amendment to include the elimination of those trailers on the road? One thing that I'd like to bring is the danger of them is different heights of them. I mean, if a car's unfortunately texting and driving or slides off and hits a trailer, it becomes a lot more dangerous because it doesn't have normal bumpers like cars do for impact. It's the same reason we don't put boulders on the side of the road. We put curbs because it can be dangerous. So I'd be more in favor of eliminating it. I think along the lines of what you're saying, Mayor and Deputy Mayor Hurley. I just don't know if we can make that amendment to just get it all done tonight.
Let me think. Okay. Chief Anderson, did you want to just comment on the things that are in here right now and why those are necessary, and the ability of the police department to actually enforce certain things without these additions?
Sure. I think it was basically we're trying to find a consensus. What is going to work for the council and the community? And what we have presented seemed like it was a compromise. Yes, it doesn't encompass all the things that we wanted to accomplish necessarily, but it did accomplish some of the issues. And there was some comment about how many actual complaints we have, and are we making ordinance changes for just a few complaints as opposed to something that's more widespread. So that's kind of how we settled with this. And there is some division on if we should include personal trailers and ATV trailers, boat trailers, car haulers. We've seen a couple of variations of this, and the first variation that included those items did not pass the muster at public safety. This variation seemed to have a more favorable outcome at public safety, so this is kind of what we settled with. But it isn't just the trailers. There are other things on here that are I think important for the community. The commercial vehicle and trailer combination, which would include tractor trailers, like Deputy Mayor Hurley had mentioned, would be included in this. And vehicles with excess weight of 10,000 pounds or greater wouldn't be allowed to park overnight on city-owned or controlled property. And we did want to limit or at least have some avenue for the police department to handle vehicles that people are using as homes. And currently, someone could park in one of the city-owned or controlled parking lots and basically live there. And I'm not sure that that's sanitary, and I'm not sure that, in fact, it's not sanitary, and it probably is a hazard to the community, and we have no way to address that right now without this type of an ordinance. By the same token,
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
That's enough.
No, I was going to ask a question, Chief Anderson. Do you agree that if we don't make an amendment to this ordinance this evening, the issue of RVs and boats and things are really not as the issue in the winter that they are in the late spring and summer, and that we could wait to address that later on?
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody's parking their trailer. Well, somebody did park a trailer out during the snow removal the other night, and it got towed to Elliott, I believe. So
there you go.
Right, that got handled up. So during the winter time, we have things in place that allow us to move those accoutrements off the roadway, and they really shouldn't be a problem now. We can look at this again come the spring and summer, and if we're getting those type of complaints, let's just revisit it.
Councillor Hanselman.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I just want to add that I understand that there's some disagreement on this particular ordinance, but I think that if we at least pass this initial adjustment to it, that it benefits us in terms of getting something on the books that's helpful and addresses some limited items and revisit it and see if we can improve it in the future would be my personal suggestion. And we've already put a lot of time into at least these changes, and I could see where these would be beneficial in the meantime while we continue to work on it. That'd be my suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Hanselman, and I agree with you. That's what I would like to see this evening. Is there any more discussion by the council before I ask members of the public who have their hands up? Seeing none, Diane Conley, you have your hand up.
Madam Mayor, can you hear me?
I can.
I have a question about the impoundment part of it, and also the towing of it. What happens when a trailer that's, let's say, 28 feet long, it's parked on a city street, and it's not roadworthy to be towed? How do you deal with that?
Anybody want to answer that question?
I guess
I'm sure there's an answer. Go ahead, Chief.
I'm not sure that we've come across anything that can't be towed. Usually what happens is it will go on a flatbed. And so if it doesn't have the wheels to roll down the street, they put it on a flatbed and take it away in that manner. I'm sure we'd come up with some way to get it moved. If we
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any more discussion? Seeing none, and we have a motion and a second on the table, I'm going to call the roll. Councillor Martel?
No.
Councillor Hanselman?
Yes.
Councillor Stackpole?
Yes.
Councillor Lanigan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy?
Yes. I'll vote for it, but I really think you guys need to go further.
And I am also a yes. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor and 1 opposed. Motion passes. Okay. 21-566-01. Order to accept the annual audit conducted by Whipley for fiscal year 2020 and to 2021.
Madam Mayor, I think we skipped an agenda item. The COPS grant.
I did? Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I just want us to finish. It's Christmas. What can I tell you? Thank you for somebody reminding me. Sorry, Chief Anderson. It's not that I don't think it's important. 21-552-01. Order to accept the 2021 COPS grant in the amount of $125,000 for the purpose of hiring 1 full-time police officer for police-based response to persons in crisis. I think I'm just going to ask for a motion to approve and a second, and then we'll go in and let the chief explain.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Councillor Lanigan, second by Councillor Martel. Oh no, Councillor Stackpole? Got
Either
it.
one's fine.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Chief Anderson, did you want to present on this?
Well, I can start anyways, and I'm sure that City Manager Buck has some input as well. But as the item states, we have been awarded $125,000 to offset the cost of hiring a new police officer, and that's a total amount over the course of 3 years. And we have done our due diligence and have learned that we only need to hire 1 officer, and there was some controversy initially that we may have to hire more people. It was just a little confusing with how the grant was written, and it's a new program that the federal government is using called Just Grants, and they really weren't sure on some of the verbiages either. Initially, we thought that the $125,000 was going to be received in a diminishing amount, and that we would slowly be weaned off the federal grant money and eventually have to pick up the full tab ourselves, which we will. But it's our understanding now that it's not going to be doled out in a diminishing amount, that we will get the lump sum and we will be able to figure out on our own how much each year we will dedicate towards this grant. I think that initially when we talked about this the last time, there was some discrepancy about what was written in the grant and what was displayed on a couple of city documents, one being the ARPA funds, which I think said we would dedicate, well, there would be some $152,000 would be required as a matching fund. And on the initial, we thought that the city matching fund would be $227,000. The difference here basically is that with the ARPA workshop, we talked about benefits and salary only. And so that's why that number is so much different than the $227,000 city match, which included not only benefits and salaries, but also training costs, equipment costs. And then we matched it out. And I think Councilor Stackpole mentioned the last meeting that we matched it out to the most expensive officer that we could hire. Someone with a 4-year degree who's a very experienced officer. We're going to pay more for that officer than we would with somebody without experience. And so we tried to just project, like, what's this the max it's going to cost us? So these numbers are not set in stone. A lot will depend, or some will depend on the quality of officer that we hire or the experience in the officer that we hire. And some will also reflect in equipment costs and what we look at in next year's budget. And so I believe between the two of these numbers, we have a really good idea of what this is going to cost for benefits and salary only, and then as well for training costs. Again, if we hire an experienced officer who is already certified through the academy, the training costs are going to be much less. Officer is fully trained. If we hire a new officer that needs to go to the police academy, the training costs will be more. So we really can't give you an exact dollar amount, but what we can tell you is that we have viewed it and it falls within the budget range that we have prepared.
Thank you, Chief Anderson. Steve, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I think that was an excellent explanation. What I would add for further clarification is, so you remember the number of the $352,000. That was $117,000 each of, and $405 each of 3 years. As the chief had indicated, that's what went into the COPS grant application. That was the worst case scenario, as indicated, fully burdened costs, plus all the equipment, training, and such under that. Building the city's maximum cost that would be anticipated per officer. We applied for 2 officers in there. I did pull, if you look at the COPS grant information, the award sheet, I had highlighted in here, we did not get funding for the 2 officers as requested. We are only funded for 1. And as the chief indicated, we have verified that we're only obligated to provide the match for that single officer for which we were awarded. And we were awarded the maximum amount per officer of $125,000. So we built the cost and justified that. So we received the maximum amount as allowable under the grant. Back to the overview that was in here. At the last meeting, we had confusion between this match differential of $227,000 that was in the COPS grant versus the opera workshop that we had a match amount of $152,000, for which in the opera workshop it was only the fully burdened cost that was put in there that we were seeking, because that's only that is the amount of money that would be eligible for us to apply for from the opera, would be for the funding of the fully burdened cost of the position itself, the match portion. It was also, this is directly out of the opera workshop, it was taken on a decreasing basis of $60,000, $40,000, and $25,000 because we believed at that time that's the way we were going to receive it. We now know we're getting a lump sum, so the city could choose to take this at $41,600 and change per year, or take it on the decreasing basis, whatever is more suitable for us to book in the budget. So hopefully that explains the differences that we were seeing in the last presentation versus the clarification that's being brought forward for you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions from city councilors? I don't see any hands up, but now would be the time. I don't see any, then I will call the roll. Councilor Martell.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. I think Councilor Lanigan had a question. He didn't actually get his yellow hand up, but he did have his hand up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that, Councilor Lanigan. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was waffling if I wanted to ask or not. So the budget deficit that's being presented coming in 25, is this position going to also deal with like the opiate situation or people in that sort of crisis? Because would there be availability through some other programs that we've explored, maybe helping fund from that?
Yes.
Yes, well, this position does go to the mental health unit, and they work in concert with Detective Adams, who is with the options clinician, as well as with the our intern as well. So that would give us the ability to have two folks, one with the options clinician and one for mental health crisis. And I think we all kind of agree that substance abuse or substance use disorders are kind of based in mental health crisis, and they're kind of linked very strongly. So I guess the short answer is yes, they'll be able to work in conjunction with each other, and that's our plan. It's been our plan from the get-go. Along with we hopefully will attain a social worker for the city that can also assist and find resources for those folks and get them linked into the resources.
All right. I was just thinking in regards to what we were talking about earlier in executive, so that's why I was asking the question.
Okay, we're gonna. Any other hands up? I think we will move this along, and I will call the roll. Councilor Martell.
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes, sorry, I missed my
And
mute.
I am also a yes. That is unanimous of all those present. Thank you. Okay. New business 21-565-01. Presentation to the City Council. The fiscal year 2020-2021 audit from Christian A. Smith, CPA, CFE partner with Whipley 30 Long Creek Drive, South Portland. Okay, Steve. You're going to start this, I think, right?
Yes, I'm going to introduce Christian Smith, who is our auditor for the city and the school. And Christian is here this evening to present the audit findings for the City Council and the school board this evening. Christian, I'll turn it over to you at this point in time, and I'll pull your presentation up. Simply give me a signal as to when you want to switch slides. I will do so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Also with us is Kelsey Burnett, who's the manager on the job. She's out of our Augusta office. I'll probably do most of the talking, but if there's something she can help with or chime in, she will. But yeah, this is our opportunity to give you a high-level overview of the audit and the results of the audit and ask any questions. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review the packets, and if you do have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll try to pause throughout the presentation. So yeah, if you'd like to go to the next slide. Oops. There we go. Yeah, I'd like to start off with just making sure people understand the roles and responsibilities, the relationship with us as the audit firm. We are independent auditors. We work for the council. We do work with management to perform the audit, and you've hired us to express an opinion on the financial statements, which ultimately are management's responsibility. And so we've issued what we call an unmodified or a clean opinion on both the financial statements of the city and the school department, which basically means that the financial statements are fairly stated and have been presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP. And so that's what you look to achieve. And, so you have achieved what we call a clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give on the financial statements. Next slide. So there are quite a lot of different reports that we issue. So there is a separate set of financial statements for both the city and school department. We issue a separate management letter and required communications letter for both the city and school department, and I'll go over those in a little bit of detail in the next slide or two. We also have to do what we call a single audit or a uniform guidance audit, which is compliance with federal requirements over federal grant money that you receive, and there was significantly more grant money received this year as a result of COVID money that came through both the school and the city. We have to issue a report to the state of Maine Department of Audit telling them how the audit went. That's a clean report. We have to issue a report with the State Department of Education. So that's the reconciliation of the EMS upload to the financial report. Again, clean report there, as far as compliance with all Maine laws and regulations as it relates to the school department and the Maine School Finance Act. So next slide, please. So this is kind of to sum up our communication letters to the city and the school. Our required communication letter is a separate letter that just kind of talks about the audit, and that, it basically says that there's no changes in accounting principles, there were no difficulties in performing the audit, there were no disagreements with management, and there were no audit adjustments. So we also issue what we call as part of the required communications letter, there's a management letter piece to it. And in that letter, there would be, if we had any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, we would describe those. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and those are, basically defined as I would say an issue or discrepancy in the accounting or controls that cause your financial statements to be maybe less reliable or risk to the protection of the assets of the city. So there's nothing along those lines. But we do from time to time issue what we call a separate comments letter, and it's so this is my mistake here where it says no comments. So there were no comments for the city, but we did have a comment in the comments letter for the school department. And so I'll just take a second to describe that. So with the school department, there were significant deficits that were accumulated this year as a result of the timing of billing for grant funds. And this was something that was discovered by the school department. So I guess that's important to note as well. This wasn't something that we came in and alerted them to. They were, they did identify it, but as of June 30th, there was an excess of about 2.3 million of deficit balances in grants. Most of it has to do with the COVID money that was received, and there's a good bit of it that had to do with other regular Title I and local entitlement grants that they've received in the past as well. And so they were behind on the billing. They've taken action to, they've identified the problem. They've taken action to rectify it. And as of September of 2021, they've basically caught up through September 2021 as of this point in time. So, but as of year end, the numbers reflect some pretty large deficits, and I felt like it was, certainly significant enough where it warranted discussion directly with the school board and with the city council as well. But we believe that the school department is on top of it and getting caught up at this point. I don't know if there's any questions on that before I move on. I see Cheryl's on as well. I don't know if she has anything to add or anything to add some color to that.
Do any counselors have any questions about that comment? I don't see any. Go ahead then. You do see a hand up? Okay.
I thought,
Deputy Mayor Her.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean,
you know what it is? I can't.
I put the hand up. I tried. Do we have other procedures in place to more rapidly stay on top of that issue? That's probably a question for Cheryl.
It was more a staffing issue. We actually had we were working on a performance plan with an employee that didn't get met and we were working on that, and we had to give them a little bit of time to try to correct it, and they didn't. So we've had a change in staffing because of it.
I think you should know that we've had slippery slopes with the school department on some similar stuff. So we do tend to keep an eye on it, not because of you, just because we don't want to have years and years of correcting and getting back to good reports from our auditors. So.
Right, yes, and I know that, and that's why I was working on it to take care of that issue. Yes.
Okay.
Understood.
No, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Kristen, then.
Yep. It is definitely something, you know, I wanted to have that dialogue with the school board as well to, you know, kind of go along those lines as well to say, hey, let's, you know, let's make sure we're, you know, continue to monitor it. Maybe if you're not getting information in your monthly board packets, it might be something, you know, just to kind of keep communicating about and keep on top of, and maybe get some additional reports to make sure that it doesn't, you know, get behind in the future. But
I see another hand. I just see another hand up,
accurate.
So I'm going to let that question go. Councillor Stackpole, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if at some point, this is not the appropriate time to dig into this too deeply, but if we could have, again, I'll leave this up to you, Madam Mayor, either an agenda item or a workshop or whatever, executive session, whatever's appropriate to have a quick discussion around this. And I mean, basically what we want to hear is whatever happened is not going to happen again. I think that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Councillor Stackpole, and I can tell you that it'll be something that we discuss at our leadership team meetings when the deputy mayor and I and the city manager meet with the superintendent and the school board chair and vice chair in January. Okay? And if I think that it needs to come back to the council for discussion, I will make sure it does. So thank you. Okay. Oh, somebody else have their hand up? Christian?
No, I think that's it. So back to me. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That being said, you know, I did make mention before, we do test the federal grants as part of our single audit or uniform guidance audit. So this year, you know, we tested 3 separate grants. And in the past, there's only had to be test 1 in most years. But all 3 grants that we tested this year, you know, 2 of them, they were all related to the school. 2 of them were COVID money, which is the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and then the ESSER, which is the Emergency Relief Fund for elementary and secondary education. You know, those funds exceeded $8 million this past year. We tested those for, you know, compliance with were they properly spent, were they properly approved, et cetera. And, you know, no findings with respect to how the money was handled. Really just like I, you know, mentioned, mostly just had to do with, okay, timing for billing for reimbursement. So next slide, please. Okay, so this really just kind of gives you some highlights of the information that's in the financial statements. So, you know, within the financial statements, there's actually 3 separate sets of books, and that's required by the GASB standards. They do require that you issue an accrual basis financial statement that includes all of your roads and bridges and buildings and debt and other obligations. So on an accrual basis, assets exceeded liabilities by $49.8 million. Most of that is, you know, in the form of infrastructure, roads, bridges, buildings, and equipment, that kind of thing. Ending fund balance for all funds was $26.4 million this past year. That's actually a decline of about $11.6 million over the prior year, but that includes the general fund as well as your special revenue and capital projects funds as well. So, you know, the breakout of that, probably the more, the part you're probably most interested in is the general fund. So your general fund balance, the total fund balance is $14.5 million as of June 30, 2021, which is a $5 million increase over the prior year. Broken out between the city and the school. The school's general fund balance increased by $2.7 million and the city by $2.4 million. You know, there are just positive budget variances across the board. All of the revenue categories were pretty strong. There was about a $1.3 million additional revenues more than budget. Most, you know, a lot of it had to do with property taxes and licenses and fees and intergovernmental grants. And on the expenditure side as well, there was about a $5.8 million expenditure surplus, and 2.2 million of that came from the school, the remainder coming from various departments. A lot has to do with capital improvements. There's about $2.6 million of capital improvement money that's carried forward to next year as well. There typically is a carry forward in that regard. So other governmental funds, as I mentioned, an $11.8 million decrease. I'm sorry, total $11.8 million. Those decreased by $16.7 million, and most of that has to do with just, you know, continuing to spend down school construction project money, road construction money, that kind of thing. Just timing, the money comes in a prior year and it gets spent over a couple of years. Another highlight, you know, total cash in banks is about 33 million. That's a decrease of 13 million over the prior year, mostly due to spending the construction money. But the important thing to note here is that all of the cash that you have in the banks are fully collateralized and insured against custodial credit risk, and that's certainly important. If there was ever an issue with the banks or bank failure, your money would be secure and covered. Any questions on that? Before I get into the slides, some of the trends. There were a couple of slides that I had to pull out from prior year presentations. We would provide you with some comparisons to other similar sized communities. I wasn't really able to do that this year because of lack of information. There's some of the towns that I've compared you with aren't available. We have one that we did just finish up in the last week, so I do have some numbers, but kind of just to give you some of the highlights of what was in those comparisons. We would typically look at and say, well, what's the fund balance of the city as a percentage of its budget compared to other communities. And the city of Stanford was usually on the lower end of that. I'd say 7-8% of budget. This year, that's increased to 11% of budget with the increase in fund balance, and that's that's kind of in the middle, I think, of where a lot of towns want to be. As a rule of thumb, it's a lot of towns have a policy to say, well, we want to have at least 1 month fund balance available, an unassigned fund balance, as a rainy day fund. That's about 8%. 1 to 2 months, 2 months would be 16%. And so we add 11%, your rate in the middle. But most of the communities we work with and see examples of are probably in the 15 to 20% range. And that's there's just some balance there, I think, just between, how much is good to keep in reserve and how much you want to keep in your, in the taxpayer's pockets. So there's a bit of balance there. The other comparison that we usually do is debt service as a percentage of budget. And, definitely when you look at the city of Stanford and you factor in that the school's debt service is all state supported, your percentage of debt service compared to your budget is very low compared to other communities. On a gross basis, it's around 15%. But if you back off the state funding, it's a much lower number. It's probably in the 2 to 3%, whereas most communities are probably in the 8 to 10 or 12% range of non-public, non-state funded debt. But and that's information. Once information's available, we can send that off to the city manager and to the finance director, so you can have that for future reference. So I think the next couple of slides just kind of shows you the trends of fund balances for the last 3 years, and so this kind of just mirrors the city, including the school, and you can see the large increase in the unassigned fund balance. The committed and assigned are pretty consistent. The assigned fund balance is really just mostly the money that you're going to use in next year's budget. But the unassigned is, that's really available for any purposes. So that's almost $10 million. I think it's 9.6 million of total unassigned fund balance, between the city and the school. And that's, and I would say also too, that's a trend that we've seen definitely with a lot of school departments, is a very significant increase in their fund balances this year over last year as a result of the operating environment and receipt of COVID money. So next slide, please. Okay. So yeah, so this is just the city excluding the school. So you can see the city's fund balance is a total of say $10 million. So, you know, by itself, comparing the city to, you know, to the total budget, that probably works out to be about an 8 or 9% unassigned fund, or sorry, total fund balance compared to budget. Let's see. What else? I think school department. Yep, this is school department's fund balance, and you can see very large increase here. We're back in 2019. They had very little fund balance, pretty much break even, and they built it up over the last couple of years, and especially this past year. The state has a rule that says, you know, they would like school departments to not exceed 3% of their annual budget in fund balance or in unassigned fund balance. Now the Stanford School Department's definitely over that percentage, but the state recently voted to increase that percentage from 3% to 5%, and they will work with the school department to you know, to get that spent down over the next, say, 3 years. So really not an issue. It's never been an issue with anybody we've worked with. And I also will say, you know, again, it's consistent with what we're seeing with similar sized school departments. I've only got like 1 or 2 other slides. Any questions on that? No. Just, you know, nothing new for accounting standards or disclosures in the current year. So it should be all comparable in terms of information and content. If there was something significant, so like next year we'll have, there's a new lease standard that requires that leases are capitalized on the balance sheet. Not sure that it's going to be really material to the city. I don't think you have a lot of, you know, a lot of vehicle leases really, or building leases or anything like that. So I don't think that's going to be a big impact on you next year. Next slide is just, yeah, kind of a disclaimer. That covers all of our material. You know, overall, I'd say the audit goes very well. You know, like I said, no audit adjustments. We continue to be able to issue the audit reports timely around the same time we have the last several years, and that's, you know, you can attribute that to the good work that's done by both the city and the school department, finance department, in working with us.
Thank you. Steve, can we have the whole screen up and stop the sharing so that if I can see his hands up? Any counselors have any questions or comments? Did Ronnie want to say something, Steve?
I'm all set. Thank you, Anne Marie.
All right. I think we're in pretty good shape. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Thank you. It's good to know. Second year into, and 2 years into a, you know, into a pandemic. So I'm really pleased to see that.
And not to mention, Cheryl's relatively new to the organization, and so is Aaron. So that speaks volumes to the work that they put into this.
Excellent. Thank you. I don't see any other hands up, and this is not the action item, so I will go on to the next item, and there's no objections. 21-566-01, order to accept the annual audit conducted by Whipley for fiscal year 2020-2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move we approve the audit.
Second.
Motion by Councillor Stackpole, second by Deputy Mayor Early. Excuse me. No more discussion. I will call the roll. Councillor Martell.
Yes.
Councillor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councillor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councillor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That is unanimous of all those present. Okay, 21-561-01. Order to accept the bid for the demolition and removal of the 28 Thompson Street building from Alex D. Sear Excavation in the firm fixed price amount of $6,449. Who's going to present on this, Steve?
Director Halsey is going to present, please. Ian?
Okay, go ahead, Ian.
Thank you. There are 4 bids on this. The low bid was Alex Sear. We worked with him in the past. Of no objections. The second bid was awfully close, $51. And then the higher 2 bids were in the $9,000 and $11,000 range. This property, this building being demolished is a long time coming here. It's been a drain on the Island Avenue neighborhood on the east side for quite some time. I was looking back at the original findings in order on this. It was from April 2019. And it very much abandonment. The property had actually been unoccupied since 2017. So it'd be, and since that time it's been tied up in an appeal. So it's taken a long time to get this far. I included that document in your material as far as the judge's order on this, and it'll be very good to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilor Stackpole. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second. Oh. Deputy Mayor can have it.
Second. Okay, the second is by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion by the council? Seeing none, then I will call a roll. Councilor Martell.
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That is unanimous of all those present. Okay, last item under new business. 21-570-01, a proclamation honoring Councilor Lucas J. Lanigan for his years of service to the City of Stanford. A couple of things planned this evening. I'm going to begin by reading the proclamation. Proclamation honoring Lucas J. Lanigan, December 21st, 2021. Whereas Lucas J. Lanigan has served as a member of Stanford City Council for 6 years. And whereas he was first elected in November of 2015 to serve a 3-year term starting in January of 2016, he successfully ran for re-election and was appointed for another 3-year term starting in January of 2019. And whereas he served on the Budget Committee for the City of Stanford in 2017 and 2020, and whereas he served as the City Council representative to the Stanford Springdale Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors from 2016 to 2020, and as City Council representative to the Site Plan Review Committee from 2016 to 2018. And whereas he also served on the Stanford Planning Board, the Municipal Operations and Property Subcommittee, the Zoning Subcommittee, the Solid Waste Subcommittee, the Marijuana Task Force, the Land Bank Authority, the Fire Station Feasibility Working Group, the Oakdale Cemetery Board of Trustees, and whereas his fellow councilors elected him to the position of Deputy Mayor in 2018 and again in 2019, and whereas he also helped establish Stanford International Film Festival and a Synergized Stanford Group and has been very active with youth sports and other community activities. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Stanford, Maine, on behalf of the citizens of Stanford Springville, does hereby extend our appreciation to Councilor Luke Lanigan in recognition of his outstanding service to the community with our very best wishes. Will be signed on behalf of the City Council of the City of Stanford and Village of Springvale. And the second piece of this tonight will be handled by Councilor Hanselman. I'm going to turn it over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I've been unofficially assigned to the official gift-giving subcommittee. But Councilor Lanigan, on behalf of your fellow councilors, I want to share that we all got together to get you a small token of thanks for your service to Stanford. We hope you can put it to good use and think fondly of your time on the council when you wear it. And I personally just want to thank you for your passion for Stanford and the positive impact you've made. And if you're willing, you're welcome to open it up quickly. I think we have a moment. That way, and you can just rip through it, Councilor Lanigan.
I'll open the card later. Thank you. I feel like I should wait a couple days for Christmas, but
Nah.
yeah, why not?
It's your one freebie.
Oh, there we go. That's very nice. Thank you so much. That's a great gift and will go to great use. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
And now I'm going to turn it over to former Mayor Tom Cody, who asked to be here this evening because he had a few words that he'd like to share since he served with Councilor Lanigan for quite a long time.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Luke, how are you?
Awesome, thank you.
There you are. All right. Yeah, I want to look at you while I talk to you. You know it takes a lot to get me out of retirement, right?
I'm surprised as all heck right now to see you. So
I'm happy to be here, and thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak tonight. Obviously, I'm here to personally thank you for your time and service. It's been a long journey, and I think that is part of the reward here. After stepping out for a year, you realize that the rewards are plenty, but really it's the process that is the big reward for all of us. So with that, I've got some prepared comments. So I'm going to look this aside from time to time, but I'm going to mostly go off memory here. But I do want to start about that concept of we hear all the time that this is a thankless position, right? Being a Stanford City Council is a thankless job, and that's not entirely true. And I think we all know that to some extent. There are certain inherent acknowledgments and rewards that you get from this job, and part of it is the way you handle yourself and the way you conduct your business. And I think that you've done a good job by working tirelessly for the community. You're a worker for sure. You get things done. You wear your heart on your sleeve. We know that. You speak your mind. We know that, right? And you and I didn't always agree, and we didn't. But I'm here tonight specifically for you because you supported me for a very long time, and we worked together in tandem for a very long time. And I remember times, particularly in the early years, and Councilor Herlihy, you remember this. There wasn't a lot of us keeping the operation together. It was me, you, and Maura working overtime, and there were countless days of subcommittees that there were no shows, there were cancellations, and you would work 5 to 6 hours during the same day in person, sitting in the council meeting room and working through these subcommittees. That's the thankless part of the job, because really nobody sees that effort. There's no accountability on that end, and it's the hours spent, behind the scenes, making sure that things get done. These are the easy parts of being a counselor, coming to these every other week meetings and doing your thing. But what I respect about you is you carried the water for a very long time when no one was looking, and that's the important part. So I recognize those efforts then, and I want to publicly make sure people watching this program know the time and energy you put in addition to balancing everything else. That you carried the water for the group for a while, and I appreciate that. And that's not a reflection on the current council, by the way. This is the early. Beyond your work ethic, there's going to be things I remember most about you, and I think a lot of it is your willingness to go above and beyond, I think, to bring life and vibrancy to the community. There are so many events and things we did, and I remember specifically going down to the falls with, I think you had like a giant flashlight, and it was pitch dark, and we flashed the lights on the waterfall, and we're like, wow, that looks pretty awesome. Let's try to get this done. So it was the lights around town. It's events like the movie in the park we did, way back when. It's the collaborations with Synergize Stanford. It's the film festival. It's the Great Pumpkin Festival. It's I'm proud of the work we did, particularly in the early years with Ian and team on the Land Bank Authority. You know how much I love tearing down old buildings, right? We accomplished a lot. And it sometimes didn't feel it, and sometimes it felt like a struggle, but we did it, and you were right there, just lockstep, and we got a lot done. All those things contribute to the positivity and the vibrancy we have today. I think we live in a different community than we did 7-8 years ago, and things do happen slowly in the government business, unfortunately, but you hung in there and you did the right things. And lastly, I want to personally thank you because specifically for me, and again, this feels like a little bit me and you talking versus all the things you did, but you often played a supporting role for me. I can't tell you how many times that there was some kind of event or some collaborative effort where you handled all the logistics, and I literally showed up, grabbed the microphone, and got recognized. And talk about thankless part of the job, you know what I mean? And that wasn't just when you were deputy mayor. That was for many years. So, you know, for that's, you know, I want to make sure I personally thank you for those years. But, you know, I want to again make sure the public knows, you know, all the work you did behind the scenes to make these events happen and all of us look good. So again, I completely, you know, appreciate the support you provide to me over the years, but also to the community at large. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you probably step back for, you know, some time and you realize sort of what you accomplished, and you go by a building, you're like, wow, that looks different now than it did, you know, 5 years ago. Or you go through a neighborhood and how different it looks and how much improved it is. So it does take some time to step back and see those things, but I want to acknowledge your generosity specifically to me. So thank you so much for that. So that's what I had. So again, congratulations on 6 fine years. Thank you for your service to the community. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors and whatever you choose to do next. You know, and speaking from personal experience, stepping out of the public eye, at least for a little while, is pretty awesome. I can go grocery shopping and no one, particularly with a mask, I mean, honestly, I'm like, you know, I'm in and out, no one bothers me. So there's the little things, but, you know, again, all the best and congratulations on a successful career at the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those words, Mayor. They mean a ton, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Any other councilors want to speak under this item, or do we want to wait for council member comments? Raise your hand if you want to talk.
I mean, I did write.
Luke? Go ahead.
I did write a little thing. I can wait till councilor comments, however you'd like to handle it, Mayor.
Nope, you can do it right now. Let Councilor Martell has his hand up. Go ahead,
Okay.
Councilor Martell.
Can I have a
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work and dedication, and I wish you the best in your future endeavors. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy?
I'll just echo a lot of what Tom said. I think we had some fun. We had some like want to tear our hair out moments. Not that either of you have much hair, but we did have those moments, and I think we did well together, in all honesty. And I echo what Tom says. I was off the City Council for 2 years, and it is nice to have that break. And I know you're thinking you're going to be running for a state house seat in Springvale, and I think the year that not only you're campaigning, but you're having a break from it to some degree is going to be worthwhile. Whether you win or lose, you'll see what I mean. It's nice to get out from it for a bit and get a little perspective before, and then come back into it. So, good luck with your time.
Thank you. I won't know what to do with it all, but we'll figure it out.
Since you overwork, I'm assuming that you'll just have a few seconds left in your day. So.
Yes. So exactly.
Councilor Lanigan, do you want to speak now?
Yeah, sure, if it's all right. So first I'm going to read this, so if I'm looking down, I apologize. First, I'd like to thank my team, my 4 boys, my beautiful wife, and my friends. When I entered into city politics at 35 years old, my son was 14, and now he's an adult and 20 and on an ambulance. So, so it's such a difference in where I started, and the grays are a lot more now for some reason, I guess. But time does fly, and I'm extremely proud that the time that and energy we spent and we dedicated. And when I say we, I mean the team that I've worked with. Nothing in the council level gets done by one individual person. It takes 7 collaborating heads and good leadership to get things done. So I'm really thankful for the people that I was able to work with. The service has been both rewarding and successful, I would like to say, and I don't know if everybody can say that in their time in public office. The benefit of serving with such experienced and dedicated city employees and fellow councilors like Deputy Mayor Herlihy, the guidance and leadership that Mayor Cody gave, the vision that like Councilor Hanselman has, it makes what you do a lot easier, and I just super appreciate all of that from all of you. The learning curve was fast and enjoyable. So thank you. Just a few things I wanted to highlight that we have accomplished is funding our road improvements project, our parks master plan, the work that we have dedicated making sure all the residents in Stanford and Springville through our land bank, requiring landlords to provide safe and clean living conditions for all residents regardless of their income, the completion of the airport solar project, and our city's forward-thinking investment in our own broadband and fiber for expansion of business. The reason I bring these accomplishments up is these are the proof if elected officials have a forward-thinking vision and work for the betterment of their residents, anything can become a reality and implemented. So I would like to thank Stanford. I would like to say, and this is sort of what Mayor Cody just said, is Stanford has become a progressive and modern city in the last 8 years, and is now a sought-after place to live, grow, and learn. And I'm just proud that I got to work with all of you to make that happen. And without all of you, the job wouldn't have been as good as it was. So thank you so much. And I'm gonna miss my time with you, but you'll see me around, and I'll be out campaigning for 2022 for State House. So I'll enjoy a couple months off, but back at it soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Lanigan. Steve, do I need to have a vote on this? No? Okay.
No,
Just wanted to
you
make
do not.
sure. All right, thank you.
No.
So anybody else? I know, right? Okay, councilor member comments. Councilor Martell, do you have anything this evening?
No, nothing. I just wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Councilor Hanselman.
Thank you. Again, to probably say what a lot of us will say tonight, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, look forward to the new year, and I look forward to seeing everybody in 2022. Thank you.
Councilor Stackpole.
I'm going to echo what the other councilors have said and say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone. Along with, please take a moment to reflect on the holiday and its meaning and the difficult time that we're all going through. So with that, I also want to wish Councilor Lanigan the best of luck moving forward and say that while we didn't always agree, we always did try to, when we did agree, we worked well together. When we didn't agree, I think we still worked well together. So I appreciate your perspective over the years. And again, wish you well in whatever your future endeavors bring.
Thank you. Councilor Lanigan.
Just Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everyone, and be safe and diligent out there. Get some time with your family. It's a great season just to see friends and family in the community. So, and don't forget to volunteer when you can.
Deputy Mayor Hurley, anything else?
I like a lot of what everybody's saying. Have a happy holiday. And I think people should realize that when you do this work, no matter what you see sometimes on television, if we're like infighting or having little squabbles, it's like having a family. And you just get used to each other. You get over your arguments because at heart, every single one of us cares a great deal about the Stanford Springville area. And we just want it to see the best of times for any given year. So I think we work hard for that. And I think we look beyond. That's why we tell everybody there is no party There is no party in the politics of the local community. It doesn't work because it would divide us further, and that's not good for the community. So good luck, Luke. I think you're gonna have a great time campaigning for some reason. I think you enjoy it. I hate it. Have fun.
Well said. Well said, Maura.
Yes,
well said, Maura.
Yes, very good. Excellent job. Everybody, I can't really add to any of those words. I just want to thank Councilor Lanigan for his service, and whatever you choose to do in the future, I'm pretty sure you'll put everything into it. So I'm going to go on to agenda items because we're finishing up early tonight. Councilor Martell, anything?
No, I don't have anything extra for tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Hanselman?
Nothing this evening.
Councilor Stackpole? Councilor Lanigan, no agenda items from you, sorry.
Yeah, I've got a list of 20 for you guys to work on.
Yeah, well,
just,
good luck. Send them in. Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Did I hear tonight you had us booked for the month of January, so I think we're good.
Yeah, I will tell you all, you're going to be pretty busy in January. So look at your schedules. If you haven't gotten in your committee assignments or your requests for January, get them in, because those decisions are going to be made next week and will be on the agenda in January.
Are we having the
budget? Thank you.
Budget committee is going to start putting in applications too, right? Soon.
Those are already in. Those are already have been solicited.
Okay.
Yep,
Perfect.
as far as I know. Excuse me, I will, so if there's nothing else that anybody has to add, Steve, we're all set, then I will declare us adjourned.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Good night.
Yes, Merry
Good night,
Christmas.
everyone. Merry Christmas.